Today we're turning some unexpected finds into beautiful, cozy fall decor. From a Dollar Tree pool noodle, you won't believe what it looks like when it's finished, and to easy fall makeovers and gorgeous high-end pumpkins, these projects are packed with warm and cozy inspiration. So let's get crafting. We're starting this project right in the Dollar Tree because when I spotted these pool noodles, I knew they could be something completely different. Believe it or not, we're turning one of these into the cutest little apples for the fall. Back at home, I started cutting my pool noodles into several pieces. I made some of them about 3 inches tall and some closer to 1.5 inches to give me a few different sizes to work with. I was able to cut these with normal scissors and it worked out just fine. Now, before I started making these little apples, I wanted to find a few different things to do for my embellishments. I pulled apart an old Christmas pick and I saved those leaves. I usually remove the leaves from the picks anyways and don't use them. But for this one project, I am only going to be using the leaves, so this is a great way to finally put them to use. And here's a little trick you may not know. If you have faux leaves that are wrinkled like these, you can actually iron them. I'm just using my little heat press here and removing those extra wrinkles. Now I'm going to grab some scissors and trim around the outside edges of these leaves to give them more of an apple leaf shape. Now let's figure out what we can use for our stems. I found these little wood pegs from the Dollar Tree last year, and I also had some of these leftover snowmans. Then there are those little birch pieces that sometimes Dollar Tree will have, and you can also use cork. If you just paint them, they look a lot like a stem. Now to prep these wood pieces, I'm going to be using some Waverly Antique Wax to give them a darker stained wood look. And for the corks, I'm going to be using some brown folk art paint. I like to place these onto a skewer, and then I use my paintbrush and I just paint the whole entire thing, and then you just set these skewers right into a vase and let them dry. So now that we have all of our little pieces ready, we can start putting together these apples. For the smaller ones, I'm using this red and tan checked ribbon that I had left over from Christmas. I believe this originally came from Hobby Lobby, and I thought these colors would be perfect for fall. I'm going to take the ribbon through the center of the pool noodle and continue wrapping it around and around until the entire outside is covered. Then when I get to the final wrap, I'm going to bring the ribbon across the bottom as well so we don't have the hollow opening showing. Then I can tuck the end in right into the center. I then repeated the same step for the 3 different pieces of pool noodle, giving me 3 adorable little plaid apples. Now we can add all of those details that are really going to bring them to life. Because I didn't want my stem to disappear too far into the pool noodle, I did stuff a little extra ribbon into the center first. Now I'm going to hot glue a few of these little berries to my apple, add my stem, and hot glue some little leaves to our pieces. And for the other 2 little apples, I changed up the stems just a little bit. I used one of those wooden pegs for one and the snowman upside down for the other. Just those little changes make each apple look a little bit more unique. Now let's try a completely different way to cover our pool noodles. For this apple, we're going to do one that's just slightly bigger. We're going to use a 3-inch piece of pool noodle. And then I'm going to be using some fabric that I cut approximately 9.5 by 8 inches. I laid out my fabric flat, stood the pool noodle right in the center, and started folding and tucking the fabric down into the opening at the top. I just worked my way around, adjusting the fabric as I went until everything was tucked in nicely and I had this cute little apple shape. Then I hot glued one of our leaves into the center and added one of the corks for the stem. I actually cut this cork at an angle before painting it, and I love the way the little angled stem looks once it sits on top of the apple. Now let's add a few of those little berries to finish this one off. And now we have one more way to transform our pool noodle. For this apple, I'm going to be using about a 3-inch piece along with this really chunky yarn that I picked up at Walmart. I started at the top and then wrapped the yarn around the outside, down through the center, and then back up and around. I continued working my way around the pool noodle until every bit was completely covered. Once all of the yarn was in place, all we needed to do was add one of our leaves, a wooden peg for the stem, and a few more of those cute berries. And wow, this apple turned out adorable. Would you ever guess that these 5 little apples all started with Dollar Tree pool noodles? So I would love to hear from you. Which one is your favorite apple? Number 1, number 2, or number 3? Drop a comment down below and let me know which one you would make for your fall decor. So I found this adorable pumpkin at the Dollar Tree, and I absolutely love the quilted look on the front. You could definitely leave it just the way it is, but I thought we could elevate it and give it more of a high-end look. I started out by removing the little faux leather leaf from the top and setting that aside for later. For the center section of our pumpkin, I'm going to be using this gorgeous napkin from the DIY Struggle, and I'll leave a link for it down in my description box if you're interested. Remember to prep your napkin before we use it for decoupage to remove those back layers from the napkin. Now I'm going to be using my matte Mod Podge, and I'm going to paint a nice coat over the center part of our pumpkin. And while it is still wet, I'm going to lay my napkin over the top. And then I'm going to layer a piece of cling wrap. I'm going to smooth that out with my hand. And then a little bit later, I am going to use a roller here just to make sure everything stays into place. I felt like this really helped me get everything into those little quilted pieces into the pumpkin. Now, while that is drying, let's give this little leaf a makeover. I used some painter's tape to tape this to a piece of cardboard, which will make it easier to paint. The thankful is cute, but I wanted to disguise the Dollar Tree look and give this more of a high-end finish. So I started with some folk art matte bark brown and gave it about 2 or 3 coats for a nice even coverage. Once that was dry, I went in with a little bit darker brown and lightly brushed it over the top to give it just a little bit of dimension, and it made that faux leather kind of pop in those different spots where it was raised. Now, while our leaf is drying, I'm going to go back to the pumpkin. And what we're going to do here is, now that it's dried, I'm going to go ahead and seal it with my matte Mod Podge, and then I'm going to let that dry again. Once everything has dried completely, I'm going to come in with my zip sander and I'm going to sand around the edges of the center piece of that pumpkin to take away that excess napkin. Now let's make a pretty little bow to finish everything off. I'm using this green ribbon that I found at the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to shape it into a simple bow. Once I'm happy with the shape, I'm going to take a small piece of twine and I'm going to tie it tightly around the center to hold everything together. Once we've fluffed our bow out a little bit, I'm going to come back in with some scissors and I'm going to dovetail my ends. You could absolutely leave it like this, but I like to cover up that twine for a more finished look. So I cut another piece of ribbon about 1.5 inches long, and I folded both sides toward the center, so it's about 1/3 of the original width. And then I'm going to wrap that around the middle of my bow, covering up the twine, and I'll add a little hot glue to the back to hold everything in place. Now, one thing you're going to notice here is that I'm leaving those twine tails attached because we're going to use those to tie our bow right onto the pumpkin. And now our bow is complete, so let's go ahead and put together our pumpkin. Let's start out by adding our leaf back to our pumpkin, and I'm just going to tie that back to the stem. And then I'm going to tie that green bow right on top. And our pumpkin is now complete. And that is all there is to it. This is such a simple Dollar Tree makeover, but I love how cozy this little pumpkin turns out. It looks so much more high-end and is ready to display for the fall. Let me know what you think about this pumpkin down in the comments below. And if you're enjoying this video, please consider hitting that like or subscribe button. It really helps my channel grow. Thanks! I found this adorable little pumpkin coaster set in the fall section at the Dollar Tree for just $3. And when I picked it up, I actually thought I was going to be giving the pumpkins a makeover. But once I got it home and opened it, I really loved the natural wood look of the coasters. The box, though, it came in, definitely was going to be getting a makeover. I decided to transform the box instead and give it more of a high-end fall look that would better blend in with my decor for my living room. I started by removing the ribbon that was wrapped around the wood box. And to do this, I used my heat tool to warm up the hot glue, which made the ribbon much easier to pull away from the box. There still was a little glue residue left behind, so I grabbed my zip sander and gave the entire box a quick sanding. I wanted everything nice and smooth before we started decorating. For this makeover, I'm using this beautiful fall napkin that I found at HomeGoods. I love the little pumpkins and all of the colors, and I knew it would work perfectly for my fall decor. Now let's prep our napkin. Since this is a 3-ply napkin, I'm going to be removing those back 2 white layers from the napkin. And I use a little piece of painter's tape to help assist me with that. So all we're left with is this beautiful printed layer. Now I want to show you something that can make a big difference when you're decoupaging. Here you can see what the napkin would look like over white compared to what it would look like directly over the natural wood. Normally, I like to give my surface a white base coat because it keeps the napkin nice and bright. But for this project, I actually prefer it over the wood. It tones the color down just a little and gives the napkin more of a rustic look that works perfectly with those natural wood pumpkin coasters. So we're skipping the paint and we're going straight in with our matte Mod Podge. I'm brushing a layer over the top and both sides of the box, making sure I have a nice and even coat. Then I'm going to let that Mod Podge dry completely before adding our napkin. Once it is dry, I'm going to cut my napkin in half and use only one section to cover the top and the sides. I'm going to position the napkin exactly where I want it. Place a piece of parchment paper over the top, and then using my hot iron, I'm going to iron this into place. The heat reactivates the dried Mod Podge underneath and helps the napkin adhere to the wood. Then I'm going to flip the box to the side and continue wrapping the napkin around the side, using the parchment paper and the iron again to secure everything in place. So while I'm working on this, I want to take a quick minute to tell you about today's playlist, Everything Cozy. I'm hosting this with my sweet friend Lisa from our gray house. She always brings so much creativity and fun to our playlist. And this month, we're so excited to have the incredibly talented Nikki from Touched by Time with Nikki joining us as our guest host. Nikki creates the most beautiful projects, and I'm so happy she joined us this month. We also have other talented creators sharing their cozy DIYs today. So when you're finished here, be sure to check out the playlist. I'll have the link waiting for you down in my description box below. Now let's get back to the project. Once all three sides are covered, I'm grabbing my zip sander and I'm sanding it down in a downward motion right along those edges. And this gives us a really easy way to remove all of that excess napkin while leaving a nice, clean edge. Now we need to finish the back of our box. I'm repeating the same process by brushing on my matte Mod Podge and allowing it to dry. Then I'll take the other half of my napkin and position those pumpkins exactly where I want them. I'll add my parchment paper, then using my hot iron, I'll adhere everything into place. Then we'll go ahead and sand away the excess napkin. And look how much this little $3 coaster holder has already changed. To protect everything, I'm going to be taking this outside and giving it a coat of Rust-Oleum matte clear enamel. Not only does this seal our napkin, but I love how this matte finish softens everything just a little bit. It almost makes the napkin design look like it's part of the wood instead of something we added on top. For one little finishing detail, I'm using this thin brown satin ribbon and I'm wrapping it around the bottom of the box and securing it with a little hot glue. Then I'll make a simple bow from the same ribbon and hot glue it right to the front. Now we can put these adorable wooden pumpkin coasters back inside and our makeover is complete. I love that we didn't have to change the coasters at all, but by simply transforming the box that they came in, this $3 Dollar Tree set looks like it's something you could have easily found in a home decor store. So I would love to hear from you. What do you think? Would you have made over the pumpkins too? Or do you like them left in the natural wood? Let me know down in the comments below. Head to the dollar store and keep an eye out for these adorable fall hangers. The hardware on these are absolutely beautiful, especially these little metal acorns. This is such a quick and easy makeover. I'm simply going to be using my little heat gun here to soften up the hot glue so I can carefully remove the original bow. Then I'll create a new bow that better matches my fall decor and glue it right into place. And just like that, the little hanger has a whole new look and is ready to be displayed for the fall. But here's another idea. If you don't need the hanger, just grab these little adorable metal acorns. They would be so cute to be added to any kind of fall decor projects. I hope these projects gave you plenty of inspiration to add a little more cozy to your fall decor. Let me know down in the comments which project was your favorite. And don't forget to check out the Everything Cozy playlist for even more inspiration. Thank you so much for crafting with me today. And until next time, please remember, craft more, stress less.